A couple of years ago, I was involved in this meetup group, Thinking While Drinking. Stay tuned. Yeah, we met twice a week in bars across San Diego to have small group conversations about emotional intelligence topics. A space for smart people to spill their guts over a pint. This was the level of intimacy I was dying for, having just moved to San Diego and not knowing a soul. One Sunday, I was voluntold to help facilitate one of the group discussions. That night's topic was honesty. About 14 people, almost all men, sat at my table. After introductions and ground rules were set, exclusively the guys jumped in. My ex-wife comes home one day and says she wants a divorce. I didn't even know she was unhappy. 100% honesty, 100% of the time. No in between. Yeah, why would anyone ever lie? It's just like not okay. Ever. Period. Oh man, do I agree. My ex-wife cheated on me. Not an honest bone in her body. Watching these guys clink their glasses in hearty agreement, I realized my table had turned into the middle-aged, bitter, divorced dude club. I could feel tension seething between the two women in the group, new, outnumbered, silently, anxiously staring at me. I'm a career counselor at a university. I reserve most of my energy for students I'm paid to challenge and support on social justice and life shit. And the perceived victimhood of the guys in the group was completely draining my capacity for grace. 20 minutes into their tirade, I couldn't take it anymore. I loudly interrupted. Yeah! So when I was an RA in college, one of the girls on my floor turned down a drunk guy at a party. He punched her in the face so hard that she had to have her jaw wired shut. Sometimes it's not safe to be 100% honest 100% of the time, especially as a person who's trans, a woman, or a person of color. So would anyone who hasn't shared yet like to elaborate on safety and honesty or something that hasn't been brought up? It worked. Thanks. It worked. I regained some control. Everyone was heard, even the two women. But if I'm being 100% honest with y'all, the story I told about the female resident getting punched, it was a lie. I did have a male resident who was a total douchebag, and he did have his jaw wired shut after getting decked at a party for pissing some people off. But that's not the story I told. I get the irony, okay? I lied during a conversation about honesty. But I did it without thinking. I actually did this sort of thing all the time, and it would bother me for a second, and then I'd let it go. But after that meetup, I was actually so upset that I couldn't sleep. Lying there, I realized it was the first time I'd really thought about my compulsion for telling lies, right? I couldn't figure out why I kept doing it or how to stop. So as one does during an existential crisis, I got up in the middle of the night and made a list. I started with the easy stuff. The first item on the list was my boss, Katie. Katie is kind, ridiculously organized, and punctual. She shows up for work every day on time, at or before 8:25 a.m., with her Tupperware breakfast of Cheerios, 2 hard-boiled eggs, and vitamins. She also happens to be one of my favorite people on the planet, and she's the reason I took the job in San Diego without knowing anyone here. So I care a lot about our relationship and doing whatever it takes to make her proud and happy. There's just one thing. I'm never on time to work. Never. Hot prickles of shame grip my stomach when I scramble past Katie's office at 8:33 a.m. This small window in the morning between 8:25 and 8:33 is the only time I really let Katie down. It's totally my fault and super awkward because I feel her silent frustration over something I think is stupid, and neither of us knows what to do in the moment, so my brain just spews out lies to lessen the tension. Like, hey, so my greatest fear of getting stuck when I'm trying on a piece of clothing came true this morning. Just got out of my dress, see you soon. Oh my God, there's a flock of pigeons just chilling in front of my driver's side door. I'm freaked out, but I'll be a couple minutes late to that meeting. Those are real texts I've sent my boss. All true events, but never the actual reason I was late. I've worked really hard in the last couple months to make timeliness a priority. Seminars, therapy, even an e-course on habit change. The truth is, I just want to stop feeling like a piece of shit and a good-for-nothing liar. So second on my list was something a bit more out of my control. And okay, I think we can agree that farting is something a lot of people lie about. But my weird parents are aggressively happy about flaunting their flatulence. More often than not, their bark is worse than their bite. But me, I don't let out a whisper, but it's potent. Classic silent but deadly. My parents would love it if I joined their fart party. Instead, if I can't hold it or run, I become a pathological liar. I make co-conspirators out of anyone in range, whispering out, that guy, or that dog, or that sewer, with an accusatory thumb pointing anywhere but at me. It's the worst when I'm around my mom, though. She's a vocal, determined bloodhound. That's a Kelsey fart, I just know it. Which would be cute if it wasn't completely humiliating. After I'm identified as the responsible culprit, people turn to stare. Dear God, woman, do you need to see a doctor? Did something die inside of you? Have you heard of fiber? I've seen it all in their concerned, watering eyes. It's true. But the thing is, it's one thing to make excuses for splitting the seam or being late. But that night when I was making my list, I thought about a lie that was totally related to the meetup. One of my doozies. The kind of tale that goes well beyond prickles of gut shame, straight to pit opening in the chest shame. Sitting there, pen in hand, I forced myself to write about one last lie. A month before the meetup, I'd started dating this guy, Mike, and he was kind of amazing. He had a rockin' bod, my dream dog, and the sexiest thing about him were all of his insightful questions that made me feel seen and appreciated. And frankly, impressed. He could keep up, which was a nice change. A few weeks in, he told me he was impatient to move our relationship to the next level, meaning we hadn't had sex yet. It was important to me too, but I wasn't ready yet. Something was holding me back. But he seemed worth taking a chance on, so I texted him that I was coming over to talk about it. Humming with anticipation, Mike grinned as he opened his apartment door. Come on in. I can't wait to chat. We cuddled for a bit, and then I started. So, I'd like to talk about our sexual history. My most recent experience wasn't the greatest. Mike's eyes widened and he nodded, leaning in closely to listen. Well, about 6 months ago, I woke up naked in a hotel room with a guy I didn't really know on top of me. When I started puking, he seemed surprised and said he didn't realize I was that drunk the night before because I was really enjoying myself. I didn't remember enjoying myself. The last thing I remembered was being at a bar downtown. The thing is, I couldn't tell Mike how scary that was, how much I'd tried to make it not a big deal, so I could believe I was fine, despite the nightmares that had ensued. I was supposed to be smarter than that, than the drunk idiot who got raped, who didn't have a wing woman with me. I was supposed to be able to think and drink, especially around men. Mike looked like he was waiting for more. Realizing I was finished, he let out this huge breath. Oh, my God, I'm so relieved. That's fine. I've definitely wound up in situations like that before. It's normal. Everyone has some bad drunk nights. In the wake of the response I hoped for, that never came, there was a numb throbbing in my throat. Then I heard myself vomiting up a lie. I heard, yeah, but he also hit me. Tumble out. I remember sinking into hot, sticky shame, watching his face tense into the reaction I'd longed for, just like at the meetup. I made some excuse and left. This was the most bullshitty lie on my list. Bullshit that no longer served me. I flipped that goddamn list over, wrote out the truth, and made a plan for the next day. Even if it meant that Mike wouldn't want to be with me after this, I couldn't pretend to be okay anymore. Neil's knees curled beneath me on Mike's white duvet. I patted the seat next to me. With shaking hands, I pulled out the list and read from it so I wouldn't lose my nerve. I have a hard time not blaming myself for what happened, about being raped. I think you want to be supportive, but, that's why I told you in the first place. But when you said that what happened to me was fine and normal, I felt totally invisible. Like my story wasn't enough. Nodding and squinting, he tenderly looked at my quivering fingers and said, okay, go on. So then I told you that the guy hit me, and that never happened. I lied about that. And now that is what I regret the most. I'm so mad at myself. I feel like shit. I feel like I have to apologize. And if you don't want to be with me now, I understand. Mike quickly wrapped his arms around me. You're batshit crazy. You have nothing to apologize for. You didn't do anything wrong. I was such an ass. Thank you for telling me. I'm so sorry. Relief filled me. I sobbed into his t-shirt, snot pouring out of my nose. Maybe he was right. Maybe I wasn't a terrible person. Maybe lying sometimes made sense. I thought about the list crumble in my hand, about the meetup, about all the lies. It was hard enough to tell the truth. I shouldn't need protection from my partner, too. So I sat up. There's one more thing. When I said that he hit me, you reacted the way that I hoped for. To trust you, I need to see that you believe me when I say I was raped, that what happened was not fine or normal. And that's got to be a deal breaker for me, because if I refuse to give bullshit anymore just to fit a narrative of violence that you would understand. Mike folded his arms, processing. After a few moments, he responded, "You're right. What happened wasn't okay, and I'll try to do better." He kissed my forehead. Damn, woman. I'm going to have to learn a lot from you, huh? Yeah. While it lasted, we had a braver relationship after that conversation, which would not have been possible without that courage. I tell lies to protect myself or other people. Sometimes they're harmless, but we always have a choice. And I have nothing to lose when I choose to stand in my truth.
Give it up for Kelsey Schultz, everybody!